What's going on, everyone? So, this upcoming Scream 7, we are going to get to see the Evans or Prescott-Evans family, however you want to approach. Asking people, say like, I'm not calling Sidney Evans, right? Sidney Prescott and Tatum Prescott and Mark Prescott, right? Like, I get it, right? But no, look, you have the Evans family. You have some key little details in the Scream 7 trailer, right? Mark Evans is a cop, right? Like, so they didn't change that because Mark Kincaid, right? Well, Mark Kincaid was a detective, but, obviously Sidney has a type, right? And maybe part of that is like the Dewey connection and just in love for Dewey and growing up with Dewey and whatnot. And, and then Mark Kincaid being the detective. And then you fast forward to Mark Evans, and Mark Evans is the cop. And then you have Tatum, who, Tatum is her daughter, Sidney's oldest daughter. Now, she does have 3. Now, based on rumors, again, everything's a rumor until we actually get the full confirmation, but based on rumors, and it does make sense, the youngest daughters, like the one you saw on the strollers of it, they are supposed to be with grandma during the event. So Mark Evans' mother is supposed to have the Meeks or the Meeks twins, the Sidney's kids in this film. So that's the explanation. But what I want to talk about is a family dynamic. I touched on it in videos and stuff like that. Really want to, especially now that we got the trailer and we got actually looks at Mark and Tatum and Sidney and, kind of little details, right? Like I mentioned, Mark being a cop, a police officer, right? Like, is he the sheriff? Is he just a normal cop, right? Like, how is this going to play out, right? Like, all of these things, I think, now add to kind of the family dynamic, right? And something I've talked about very heavily is I want to see that family dynamic. I want to see them explore and dive into those things. Like, my biggest concern is that they just kind of brushed this over. And that would be, to me, a very big missed opportunity. You're talking about Sidney Prescott. And not only is Sidney Prescott married, right, which as soon as Scream 4, that wasn't even a thought. She was on a book tour. We didn't see her married. We didn't know she had kids or anything. Like, this is something that they kind of just threw in Scream 5. Okay, fine, right? Like, it can work. You do the math, you do the timeline, stuff like that. Not just that, her being on a book tour doesn't necessarily mean that she didn't have kids or anything like that, right? Like, got back from the book tour, had some more kids, settled down, right? Like, there's a lot of things that you can explain and dive into and talk about and all that stuff. But, like, the fact that Sidney would even trust somebody enough is crazy in and of itself, right? The fact that Sidney, who her relationships have not had a great track record, right? From Billy to, Derek and stuff, right? Like, to where now she finally trusts somebody enough to, and not just that, but, after Mark Kincaid and stuff, like, she finally trusts somebody enough to not only, like, date and be in a relationship, but actually marry, settle down, and have children with. I'm sure that's something that she would always want, especially with her broken childhood and mother and stuff like that. You could see her kind of being like, I want to be better. Right? I want to be the better version. And, I imagine she's found a good man. But, like, don't just be like, oh, hey, here's Mark, and yeah, he's a cop, and all this. Like, no, like, I want, give us, you don't have to spend the entire movie or 30 minutes each character explain, like, but give us, like, family dynamics. Like, I want to know, how is Mark as a husband, right? How is he towards it? Is he very accepting? Is he very understanding? Is he, kind of an a-hole? Is he, like, how is he? Is he kind of overbearing? Like, how, like, what is it? How is Sidney as a wife towards him? Is she kind? Is she Susie Miss Homemaker? Is she kind of a bit guarded and, kind of, is she kind of abrasive at times, right? Like, how is their relationship? How is their dynamic as a couple, as a husband and wife, right? I don't want them to just brush over the family dynamic. But not only is it crazy that Sidney would settle down with somebody and, have a family and do all those things, but to actually have children, right? And now Sidney has to protect those children. And Sidney has to now, you've put Sidney in such an interesting position that I really hope they don't fumble, right? For the first time, Sidney is not responsible just for herself, right? Like, this isn't a Scream film where, hey, if I die, it sucks, but it happens, right? Like, this is just kind of my life type thing, right? Like, I'm only responsible for myself. I'm only responsible to keep myself alive. No. This Scream movie, she needs to keep her husband alive. She needs to keep her daughter alive, right? Like, she has things bigger than her. She has things, like, obviously, Dewey and stuff like that, I'm sure. But, like, her job was to keep herself alive. Me, myself, and I. I mean, even in Scream 3, she's a recluse. She's away from everybody. She's hiding in the middle of nowhere. Like, this is the first movie where she's out in the open, has something to lose, right? All the other Scream movies, she never really had anything to lose. Now she has something to lose. Her daughter dies, her husband dies, both die, like, under her watch. Like, how does that hurt her? How does that break her? How does that make her feel, right? Like, all of these things are things that again, I want to see explored, right? Like, it appears based on the trailer that Tatum gets taken. Okay, cool. Like, I'm excited to kind of see that. Like, it looks that, like, Mark gets killed. Are they really going to kill her husband in the first movie? I mean, maybe, right? But Kevin Williamson said he wanted Sidney to have a happy ending. Kind of hard to have a happy ending when your husband's dead, right? Like, so especially the first guy she finally, was able to find and settle down with and all that stuff. So, this is a very interesting dynamic. But then also, like I mentioned, having children, right? Like, who would have thought she even could have children? I mean, think of how much wear and tear she's taken over the years. Right? And just being stabbed in the stomach time and time again. And just like, it's great. And she has children. Right? And again, somebody bigger than her. Somebody that she has to put before herself. Somebody that life is more valuable and more important than her or anyone else around her. Somebody that, if Gail and Tatum are standing on the ledge and only one of them can survive, guess who Sidney's choosing? Right? Same thing with Mark and you name it, right? Like, so this is such an interesting place for us to be in that I really hope that they don't mess up and fumble. Right? Give us the insight. I want to know, how is Tatum as a daughter? Is she rebellious? Is she kind of, like that teen, like, oh, I know everything, I'm invincible, blah, 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 blah. Right? You see the moment she's like, I want to be a fighter like you, but that doesn't tell us how she is, growing up type thing. Like, is she, like, Ghostface kicks the door in and starts killing people, it kind of humbles you a little bit. Like, okay, maybe I'm not as, maybe I'm, so all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I want to be a fighter like you. But that could also play into, like, like hey, my mom was able to survive 20 times. I can do it too type thing. Or that could go into that, child mentality type thing. But also, like, how is Sidney as a mother? Is she a helicopter parent? Is she overbearing? Is she kind of controlling and stuff like that? But because, of the life that she lived and she's trying to protect her and stuff like that. Is Sidney kind of paranoid and all that? Like, there's just so much to explore and dive into here that again, it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to spend 40 minutes explaining all this stuff. You could just do it through the natural course of the film and through dialogue, right? Like, have some scenes. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Agree my points, disagree my points, kind of mix in the middle. Have you feel out of the way? I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.